Hello and welcome back to Black Arbor Astro. This particular video is a remake of the LRGB combination video that I did some time ago. The original one, the video quality really wasn't what I wanted. For some reason it recorded in 1080p and instead of in full HD mode. So I've decided to re-record it again. I'm using this the same 4 files. You can see them on the screen in front of you now. I've already gone through the dynamic crop, the automatic background extraction, linear fit, which for the linear fit, if you've not seen that before, linear fit, you just pick it combines it levels out all 4 images, and because I'm using a luminance filter, a luminance image on this one, which has got all the detail in it, I've used that as the reference image for linear fit. So the RGB images have all been linear fitted to the luminance filter on that, and all of them have gone through the blur exterminator as well. For the stretch, so this is all in the linear phase, this upper part of the processes that I do. For the stretch itself, I've used the GHS version of stretching instead of the histogram transformation, and the RG and B images have already been done. The luminance one I have done, but I've sort of wound it back to the blur exterminator, just so that I can show you what I've done, just bringing it back forward again. I've actually used 4 different renditions of the GHS just to bring it back in, and the 4 of them, the first one there was a linear stretch, just to reset the black point, so you didn't really see much there. First one comes up, second one, and then we knock it back to bring some of the detail in, and then a final one just to darken down the background a wee bit there. So I've tried to make them all look very similar with their stretch. And one thing I should add with this is that when I took these images, the luminance, these were all taken with an ATIC 428EX camera, and with that one you're able to bin on camera as opposed to binning later. So the luminance filter was a 1x1 bin, and the RG and B filters were all 2x bin. All you're really looking for with with the RG and B image filters is to get the color, so all the details in the luminance, and then you're just trying to drag the color out with the other 3 filters. That's why you use a 2x bin on it. It just speeds things up a little bit, that's all. So I've gone through and stretched all 4 images and got them to this stage. So the next process that I'm going to do isn't actually on my process icons list here. It's up to processes, all processes, and then I'm going to do an LRGB combination. So fortunately it's all come up here. So luminance, I'm going to use the luminance, red, green and blue. Inherit astrometric solution is ticked, and chrominance noise reduction is also ticked. So for this I'm just going to hit globally apply and create a new image. It shouldn't take too long. Just when it goes through the noise, and there we go. So what I'm going to do now, this is my color image or combined image, so I'm going to shrink these down so that they're not bothering us on the screen, and that leaves the screen free to work on this image here. I'll pull it out a little bit. You can see there's a bit of noise in the background there, but we'll soon get rid of that. And the colours aren't too bad either. There's a bit of green in there. May just tone down the green a little bit, but overall it's not too bad. Stars are a bit on the blobby side, but we can tone them down a little bit as well. And there's a good bit of background dust around the main part of the galaxy there. So the first thing I'm going to do with the color image is remove the stars. So for that I'm going to use Star Exterminator, and I'm using the AI version 11 on this particular one at the moment. It's the latest one at the time of making this video. So I'm going to apply that, let it run, and I'll just stop the video here and come back when it's extracted all the stars. And there we are, that was quite quick. So turn that off. So I'm just going to quickly work on these stars. You see it's made quite a good job. There's one left down in there, and the wee small galaxy off the bottom end of M51 is in there. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. I'm just going to work on these stars a little bit, just bring out some colour. So start off with curves and do a bit of saturation. Open up a preview and just pull the saturation up a wee bit, and you'll see that we're starting to get a little bit of blue in there. There's still a wee bit of green in this, so I'm going to apply that, reset it, and then I think what I'm going to do with this is just knock that off a minute and doing it SNCR, but I'm not going to pull all of the green out of it. I'm going to pull it down to about 60% there, and then just apply that, and that pulls it out a little bit. We'll just see the difference there. There you can see on that particular star there, there's quite a, in the halo around it, there's quite a lot of green in that, and just applying that 60% of SCNR has removed that out of there. So that's all I wanted to do. I'm going to remove all of the green. So coming back to the curves, I'm just going to leave that there because it's bringing out a bit of blue in there and a bit of orange. So maybe just apply a wee bit more in there. There we go. And then I'm just going to tighten up the stars a wee bit. So I'm going to come onto the RGBK, and I'm going to go up to the bright end of the line, just pull that up a little bit, and then come down to the darker end and just retract that back, and you'll see that the stars are disappearing slightly. Just tightens them up a little bit. I could use the sharpen process on there, but I prefer just to use that because I don't want to do too much to these stars. So there we are. I'm happy with that. That's quite good enough for me. If I just let's find one, zoom in on that, and just take you back out. There's that green. And you see, remove the green, just increase the saturation a little bit, and just brightened it up. So that's all I'm going to do with the stars, and I'll just take them out of the way and put them up in the top corner. So now I'm going to work on the galaxy itself. Now the first thing I want to do is remove some of this green that's in here. So again, SCNR, pick the green, average neutral, and then I'm going to pull it back to, what should we do? Let's try 70% on this one, and then just drop that in there and see what that's done. You can see it's taken quite a lot out. Possibly a little bit too much, so I'm going to roll it back to 60% and apply it again. That's a bit better. So at the moment I've just done the SCNR. I haven't done anything else to this image, so there's no saturation has been applied to it or anything like that. So that's the next thing to do. Back to curves, open up a preview window so that I can see what I'm up to, and pull the curves up, and you'll see that's actually excuse me, you'll see that's brought up the blues in there. There's a wee bit of background green got crept back in again, but I'm going to leave that as it is. So again, with the preview window, if you want to see, take a closer look at what's happening within the galaxy, this little square down the bottom here, click on that, and then you can draw your preview window, and it will zoom in on it. So I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to bring it up anymore. Don't think. I'll just try it. No, I think that'll just about do. So we'll apply that, and then so it didn't apply it right. So we'll pull it up again. So and apply. That's better. So that's applied that. So I'm not going to do any more. I'm just going to do the one on the saturation because I don't want to oversaturate it. But what I do want to do is bring up the brightness of the image as a whole on this. And you'll see that that's going up now. But again, I don't want to do too much. If you do too much, you just blown out the cores. So just a little, just bring it up a touch, and then grab down here and pull this down to darken down the background. And you can see I don't want to take away this external dust from around here. I don't want to black that out. So I'm only going to pull it down a little bit. And if you do want to darken down the outer edges of it, then you can come down to this bottom part here and drag that down, and you see what's happening there. That's bringing that right down. But you don't want to go down so that it's black, because space isn't black. There's colours in there. So I think I'm just going to leave that like that. Might just bring again to get the cores. Or the core, so I'm not going to completely wipe it out. I could bring that down just a little bit. You'll see over on here, if I grab up there and pull that down, you can see it changing there. So I'm just pulling the core back a little bit so I can still actually see the core. Still brightening the thing up, but just pulling the core back a little bit. Apply that. And that's applying it a second time, so we'll just remove that off of there. That's fine. Now what I can do, if I want to, is actually isolate just the galaxy. So to do that, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to come up to this button up here, extract CIE component. So I'm going to click on that, and that gives me a luminance, a copy of the image. Then what I can do is open up histogram, transformation, select image 13L up there. Now if I go to preview tab, what I'm trying to do here is darken down the background, increase the brightness of the galaxy to such an extent that I'm creating a mask to go over the galaxy itself. So I'm going to increase, and you go OTT, you can go OTT with this to get the effect that you want. And now you're going to drag the black point down to a point where I don't want all that noise in the background to be showing through, because that's part of the mask that you want to take out. So just reduce it down so that that's taken out, or the majority of it is. You can pull the white point or the midpoint up a wee bit more if you want. And there we go, that'll do. So it looks a bit weird, but when I apply that there, then what I'm going to do is these are down the bottom here, these color masks that I've downloaded, they use pixel math, they're sort of pre-programmed pixel math sums. One of them includes a mask blur. So what I'm going to do is just pop that onto there, and you'll see what that's done. It's just blurred that out, and then I can pick and add that as a mask, keeping it on the screen, and you'll see what it's done there. It's just now allowing me to work on the galaxy only, and it's masked out the background. So I can, oops, make sure you select the one that you want to work on. I can invert that and do it the other way around if I want to. So it just means that I can actually just work on the galaxy, leave the background as it is. So with curves, when I open up the preview window, you'll notice that the red part of the mask isn't on there anymore. But if I've just got RGBK selected there, so if I increase the brightness on it, it's only really the galaxy that increases, you see. So I'm only working on that part of the image. So I can draw it down, or I can bring up and draw that down, and just increase the contrast to the image. Yeah. I can just select the red channel, and I can bring the reds up a little bit, just to put a bit more of a natural sort of colour to it. Could bring up the reds in the highlight bit and actually form more of an S curve on it. But no, I think I'll just leave it where it was. Oops, take that off. There we go. So I'm just going to leave that little bit red in there, and select the green. I can pull a little bit of green out of it and see what a difference that makes. Just pulling a little bit of green out of it. Don't want to go too much, but just a tad. Just pull a bit of green. There we go. So that's not too bad. Let's have a look at the core again, see what that's looking like. I can still see the core in there, but some of the details disappeared. So I'll come over onto RGBK again, and I'll put a pin there, pin in the midpoint, pin down the bottom, and this is the area that I want to mess around with, which covers just that bit in the center of the core. So if I put a pin there and just drag it down a little bit, you can see what's happening there. Again, you don't want to go too hard, but you just want to just bring it back a wee bit so that you can just see some of the veins of the dust lanes in there, and that'll do me. There we are. Right, I'm going to leave that where it is. Reset. There we go. So, don't think I want to do any more to the background. So what I'm going to do now is, to save putting any more noise into the background, I'm just going to leave this mask on it. Shut down the curves, and I'm going to bring up HDR multi-scale transformation, and I'm going to hide the mask. There we go, so we can see what's going on. Zoom in on it, and I'll start off by putting the number of layers up to 8 on this one, and then just apply that and see what it does. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's all down to what you feel. See, that's gone too light really, so no, don't like that at all. Remove that off, and I'll knock the layers down to 7 and reapply, and then see what this one looks like. There we are. It's certainly brought out a lot more contrast in it. Let's zoom out and see what it looks like. See what a difference it's made. It's made quite a difference, but I don't want to. I'll leave that on there. That'll do. Or actually, that's 7, so I'm going to take that off. Actually, thinking about it, and I'm going to use unsharpen mask instead, and see what difference that makes. So this is with the standard settings, 2 and 0.8. If I take that off, you can see how much sharpen things up. So I think this adds too much noise in there, so I normally bring this back to about 0.6, and you'll see that that's just pulled some of the detail down. But what you can do, it doesn't add as much noise, so you can actually pull the standard deviation up a wee bit, say up to about 3, and just leave it like that, and apply that. There we go, and that's not looking too bad there. So if I can zoom in on it and then just flick it backwards and forwards, you can see how that's brought it back up. There, that'll do. So I don't need the mask anymore. I'm not going to do anything else with the background, so I'm going to remove the mask, and the next item on the agenda is noise exterminator. Now I always leave noise exterminator towards the end of the processing. It's just because if you're using things like unsharpened mask and that, you can actually introduce a little bit of noise in there. If it's a very noisy image, then I tend to take it out at the start, but I don't do the full noise reduction at that stage. I'll do, say, about 40 or 50% noise reduction just to bring it down a wee bit, and then I'll get to this stage and then apply it again. So on this particular one, it's not too bad. There's not too much noise in the background, but I just want to even out some of this, the noise in this dust here. So I'm not going to apply the full 90%. I'm going to pull this one back to about 70%, and I'm going to leave the details at 15%. Apply that, and then it shouldn't take too long to do. There we go, and you can see what a difference that's made. So it's not it's taken the noise out, but it's not removed all of the noise. It's left a little bit in there just to make it look a bit more natural. If I zoom in again, you can see the difference there, hopefully on the YouTube screens. So it's just removed some of the noise out but left everything else in there, and I think that's looking quite good. So the next thing, one thing there is this is the mask that we made. We're not using this anymore, so we can get rid of it off the screen. There we go. So the next thing we want to do is add the stars back in. So we'll use Pixel Math for this, and I'll just bring that down, create a new image, and then expression editor. So I want to go in with, there's several ways you can do this, as I've explained previously. You can do your image 13, which this one is, plus image 13 stars, and you can create an image that way. There we go. What I prefer to do is a slightly different coding on it. So I did pick this up from somebody else, I must admit. I didn't make it up myself, but squiggly line, open bracket, squiggly line, then put image 13 in there, close the bracket, the star over the figure 8 gives you a multiplied, and then open bracket, squiggly line again, then the stars, oops, there we go, put the stars in there, close the bracket, and then close the final bracket to close this lot. You see it's marked up in green, and then apply that and it will create a similar image. But the difference being, when I zoom in and you put them side by side like this and zoom in on that star, for instance, and this one, so remember this one I've just added the two together, that's zoomed in. This one is there's slightly more of a pinprick in the middle there. This one's a little bit more natural, I suppose. There's not a great deal of difference between them on this particular image, but I prefer the way that the stars look when you use the squiggly line method, as I like to call it. So there's not that much difference there, but that's the finished article anyway. You can then trim it down to make it whatever size you want. I tend to use, I've got this one, resample. I've just named it resize on there because that's what I do with it. So select the image that I want to change, 17, and then add in whatever size I want to change it to and apply that. So there we go, that's the LRGB combination. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's been useful to you. Thanks very much for watching.